Man, this one is going to be the big one. Nintendo has confirmed that the Nintendo Direct is back alongside a Nintendo Treehouse Live. We've got all the details here in addition to my predictions as well. Let's just first start off with what Nintendo had to say on Twitter about the Nintendo Direct. It says, join us on June 9th at 7 a.m. PT for a hashtag Nintendo Direct followed by Nintendo Treehouse Live. The Nintendo Direct will be roughly 50 minutes and Nintendo Treehouse Live will be 95 minutes. So there should be a good amount of content to go over. I will be live reacting to the show. I'll be up bright and early to go over you guys' predictions live, to talk about what's going on, what we could see. But this should be a good one. Remember, guys, hit that like button, subscribe if you are someone new. I will be live reacting to the show once again June 9th at 7 a.m. PT, 10 a.m. Eastern time. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you can be up to date on everything. This is going to be a big Nintendo Direct. It's not a partner showcase. It's not a Nintendo Direct mini or indie world or anything like that. This is the big Nintendo Direct returning. First one that we've had since September of last year for the general Nintendo Direct. So I will be going over my predictions in this video. But before we continue, we are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2 at 140,000 subscribers or on September 1st, whichever comes first. Subscribe, like, comment. The winner will be chosen at random and it's a worldwide giveaway. Thanks, peeps. Let's just briefly run down the stuff that we know about. So Star Fox, that's coming out this month here in June. Looking forward to that. End of the month. Splatoon Raiders, that also comes out in July, so Nintendo might have like another little trailer for that game at the Nintendo Direct. Rhythm Heaven Groove, same thing, July, might have another little trailer for it, more of a smaller game, but still looks kind of cool. Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, I expect there to be more of a bigger trailer, a release date, more gameplay footage, details, maybe some amiibo, special edition, something like that, and I think that that game's going to have a pretty short turnaround. It's going to be kind of shown off again, and then it's going to come out within the next couple of months or a few months. So I think that game's August or September. Then you have the Dust Bloods, that game we've known about since last year, and we just got to get more information on it. Kadokawa did confirm once again that it is coming out in 2026. They dated Elden Ring, so I think this is the next one to get dated. More details, more information, maybe even like a beta or some type of demo test for people can kind of go in there and test out the online gameplay in there. And then Pokemon Winds and Waves, it might show up at this Direct, it might not. The game is not till 2027. They're making sure to take the time so they don't fall into the same problems that they had with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So I think we could see it here, we could not, but there's definitely more likely that we see it maybe at the end of the year or maybe next year early. But yeah, they could show something. Okay, what we could see when it comes to new titles or different types of games that were not announced beforehand. Let's start off with Mario, and I'm really going to be going over mostly just first-party games, third-party stuff. We'll see whatever shows up, but when it comes to Mario, new 3D Mario is obviously the big thing that a lot of people really want to see. I'm not sure if it's going to be at this one. They might want to emphasize the next game that we're going to talk about or the next franchise, but 3D Mario can always show up. You know that they've been working on it for quite some time, so that is a big possibility. It's just a matter of when they actually want to show the game off. Nintendo's in a pretty good spot with the Switch 2. It's selling pretty good, and they haven't had that next big 3D Mario drop yet, so that's obviously going to boost up sales quite a bit whenever they decide to show that off and the game does release. From what we've heard from some of the leaks out there from Nate the Hate, this game is not going to be ready until 2027, so they could hold off on it and just show it off next year, or use it as something as like a one more big thing for the end of this year. Maybe there's another Nintendo Direct, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. There could be some more Mario Universe games, so of course stuff like a new Wario game is being rumored as well. Maybe it shows up here. Mario Kart World DLC. There could be other remasters like Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 HD. So there could be stuff like that. But I don't know how much Nintendo's going to want to go on Mario here. Maybe there's a new Mario Maker, or there's like a bringing over some of the games. Maybe there's a Switch 2 version of that. So we'll see if they do something with Mario when it comes to outside of the big 3D Mario and other things that maybe that could be happening. All right, let's move on to Zelda. I think Zelda has a good chance of having a pretty, I would say, sizable representation at this. You have the 40th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda. Nintendo has not officially done anything yet. we're still waiting on games like Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD, Twilight Princess HD, and something has me thinking that maybe Nintendo, the reason why they haven't put out these games yet, and this is my crazy theory on this, is because they're actually doing pretty in-depth remasters for these games. Maybe it's not just the Wii U versions just brought over very quickly. Maybe they're actually taking their time and improving it even more than maybe what we would have thought with these games. So Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD, Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD, those are both still on the table. Now it could just be a double pack of just the straight up Wii U games ported over. Maybe they put it at 60 FPS because there was some frame rate drops on Wind Waker HD, and Twilight Princess also had a bit, and those ran at 30 FPS. So maybe they bump those up to 60 FPS, bump those up to 4K, and I think that would be pretty cool if they did that as well. A double pack would be nice. Get 2 games for 70 bucks. I think that would work well for a lot of people. So if they did that, I think that would be pretty cool. And the big one is the Ocarina of Time remake. A lot of people are, talking about that game because of what Nate the Hate has leaked. I do believe Nate the Hate in this one, and this could be the big November game that Nintendo has. I don't think Nintendo wants to go head up when it comes to GTA. I know they don't necessarily care like crazy about it. We're seeing like every single game not release in November, and a lot of games just packing it all in for September and October to avoid GTA. But I do think that Nintendo, with Ocarina of Time, that game is legendary enough and big enough to maybe it comes out like the beginning of November. It gets like maybe 2 weeks or so before GTA 6, and I think that would be fine. There are people who aren't going to play GTA and they'd like to play something else. I think Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time remake, depending on the scope and scale of that could be something that could fit that spot pretty well and do really well. Now we have to see exactly what the scope and scale of this is. Nate the Hate doesn't know what it is, so I mean it could be a smaller scale scope remake, or it could be something pretty expansive. Like, we just don't know. Star Fox was pretty expansive, so I'm guessing they're going to go more expansive remake with it, but we just have no information on that yet. Whereas with Star Fox, Nate knew for sure that the graphics were really good in the game. Didn't know that it was going to be a remake, but knew that it was going to be traditional and it was going to have really good graphics. So interested in seeing exactly how Ocarina of Time remake works out, if that does get announced and it's real, of course. Okay, let's talk about Metroid. Metroid is an interesting thing because we still are waiting on Metroid Prime 2 and 3. We have Metroid Prime 1 remastered. We have Metroid Prime 4. We just need 2 and 3. So we're waiting for that. Some people have speculated, oh, they're going to do it on the GameCube NSO. Then they're going to put out a Wii NSO. And they're going to have Metroid Prime 3 on there. But I think that they could probably do like a double pack, like the Pikmin thing, to where you just put like Pikmin 1 and 2. And they just put that out there. I think that we could see the same thing here with Metroid Prime 2 and 3. Just a pretty quick 1080p, 60 frames per second HD port of both of those games over to the Nintendo Switch 1 and Nintendo Switch 2. So that's possible. I think that a Metroid Dread Nintendo Switch 2 edition, that's something that people don't talk about because the game already runs and looks good on Switch 1. And if you play it on Switch 2, it's like kind of like the same thing. And I think that we could see that updated because it's the best-selling Metroid game of all time. And it's a really good Metroid game. People would definitely like to play it at like 4K 60 or even 120 FPS if they decided to go that route. So I do think that that could be like a quick game that they can get out to kind of fill some of the gaps. And it would be pretty cool. I would play it again. I have not played Metroid Dread again. I've been holding off on that just in case they did something on the Nintendo Switch 2. So we'll see if they do a Metroid Dread Switch 2 edition. I mean, they could just leave it. It's possible, but I wouldn't be shocked or surprised if they did that. Metroid Prime 4 update. Could we get something to kind of help out with the game? I mean, I know that it wasn't the biggest seller out there. They did sell over 1 million units, and there are some issues when it comes to the game. Could we get a little bit of a revamp? Could we get some updates to help out with it? Maybe. There's been some videos out there from Dr. Trey 81 saying that they are hiring for Metroid Prime 5, which that does make sense if you've played Metroid Prime 4. It definitely seems like it's going to continue when it comes to the story and everything. So I do think that that should be fine. And I think that if they just go back to what they did with Metroid Prime 1, just make the same game but just different setting, but the same type of setup with just new powers and all that, I think it would be fine. Just a lot of different ideas that maybe people didn't like in Metroid Prime 4, even though I liked the game. But maybe we have an update, and maybe it kind of fixes and enhances some things that has been quite some time since the game came out. Came out back in December, so it's been a number of months. So maybe they actually have an update for that game to make things just a bit better. But once again, long shot on that too. All right, could we see anything from Super Smash Brothers? I think that's probably not. I think that Sakurai is definitely working on the next Super Smash Brothers game, but I don't think it's ready to show off quite yet. Now, if they did, that would be a bombshell, and that would just be incredible. But I'm guessing that maybe they show that off in 2027, and it comes out in late 2027, or they show that in late 2027, and it comes out early 2028. I know they want to have Smash Brothers out within the first couple years of the Nintendo Switch 2 launch, or more like the first couple years of any Nintendo system launch, but I'm just not sure if something's going to be ready at this point. So I think that that one takes a bit more time. Maybe we get like an NSO drop, so like Smash 64 on the Nintendo 64 online, so maybe we get something like that. Splatoon, let's talk about that. We already got Splatoon Raiders, but what about Splatoon 4? I think maybe a tease, but probably not anything when it comes to Splatoon 4 just yet. I mean, Splatoon 3 got the update that runs and looks so much better on the Switch 2. We're getting Splatoon Raiders, so I think that's going to be enough Splatoon action for 2026, and maybe we see something in 2027. But Splatoon's massive. It's a big system seller. Japan goes crazy for it, so you know they're working on that next big Splatoon game. How about Animal Crossing? Animal Crossing got that big Switch 2 update and Switch 1 update, but Switch 2 got an actual version of the game. Could we see something from there? I think it comes a bit later. I think it's just a little bit too early for Animal Crossing, even though this is right around the time period that you see the next Animal Crossing game where it starts happening, because it usually takes about maybe 6 years for the next ones. But maybe they're taking a bit more time because they did do the Switch 2 edition. So maybe that buys them a bit more time. People are playing that, and they did even mention it when it comes to something to help boost out Western sales of the Nintendo Switch 2 with the Switch 2 edition of Animal Crossing New Horizons. So I think maybe they hold off on that one a bit, but once again, would not be shocked if we see something. Animal Crossing, Luigi's Mansion 4. That's a game that they've probably been working on for quite some time. That is a blockbuster IP for them, 15 plus million units sold. It has been incredible for next level games. Nintendo wanted to secure them, lock them up for the long term when it comes to owning that studio over there in Canada. So I think that Luigi's Mansion 4 is definitely being worked on. Whether they talk about it here or not, could be maybe the next Nintendo Direct. Let's say like a fall Nintendo Direct, or maybe in 2027 they talk about that game. But I know that they're working on it, and it's just a matter of when they want to show that game off. Okay, let's talk about Kirby, another big franchise here. I think it's a bit too early for Kirby and the Forgotten Land sequel, but I can see a smaller game, or like a remaster or something. Where is that long-lost Kirby Planet Robobot remaster that Nate the Hate talked about a while ago? So maybe we see something like that to kind of fill the gaps once again within the Nintendo Switch 2's library. We could see maybe Kirby Triple Deluxe, maybe there's some type of double pack or something like that. So Kirby definitely on the table for a remaster or a remake of some kind. But I think that they're working on, I think they've already kind of confirmed that because they're hiring for the next big Kirby game. So Kirby and the Forgotten Land 2, or the next big 3D Kirby game, that's probably going to be within the next couple of years or so. Even though it's been a while since Kirby and the Forgotten Land, but I think they still need a bit more time to kind of flesh that game out and take full advantage of the Nintendo Switch 2 system, because that game looked great on the Switch 1. It just ran at 30 FPS. The Switch 2 edition of that fixed that. Now it runs at 60 FPS, and it looks gorgeous as a Switch 1 game. So I can only imagine what they're doing when it comes to an exclusively built Kirby game, big 3D Kirby game built for the Nintendo Switch 2. Okay, I want to briefly mention Monolith Soft. So we could see some Monolith Soft stuff here too as well. Something like a Xenoblade Chronicles 2 remaster, or Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Switch 2 edition. We could see Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and Xenoblade Chronicles 3. They might want to put those together, and those games could use it just because they're a bit crusty on the Nintendo Switch 1. Still awesome to play. Got a lot of patches and updates with Xenoblade 2 to help things out, and it stabilized on the Switch 2 if you play it via backwards compatibility. But playing it at 60 FPS and like 1440p or 4K, that would be nice. Same thing goes for Xenoblade Chronicles 3 as well. Could we see Monolith Soft's next game? That's a possibility. They've been working on it now for quite some time, but I think that that could be like a one more thing for a different Nintendo Direct. Maybe a fall Nintendo Direct, or maybe they want to have it closer to the release, so maybe they do it next year and then they drop it like a couple months afterwards. It was a pretty short amount of time between Xenoblade Chronicles 3 announcement to release, so I think they might want to do something similar here. So we'll see if Monolith Soft shows up, but I hope that they do. I'm in a little bit of a Monolith soft withdrawal when it comes to a new game. Love the Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. That was awesome on the Switch too, outside of the graphical situation, but the frame rate was great, and the new chapter was so good, and it played so great on the Nintendo Switch too. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Monolith Soft does next. Okay, I guess we can kind of round this out with some smaller franchises, stuff like Punch-Out!, Golden Sun, Kid Icarus, Pikmin. I think all of those are possible for remasters, re-releases, or smaller games. Kid Icarus is an interesting one because there's been so many rumors, and even Sakurai himself saying that he would love to see Kid Icarus Uprising with modern controls and HD and all that. So was that a hint of something? Maybe, maybe not. He doesn't work for Nintendo directly anymore. He hasn't worked for Nintendo directly when it comes to being an employee of them for a while. He's contracted out. So maybe they put together a small team for him to take a look at that as far as a remaster goes in between Super Smash Brothers. But that to me probably is the most chance of something happening, is Kid Icarus Uprising, getting that over, and also Pikmin. I think Pikmin 4, getting a Switch 2 edition of that game or something in the lines of Pikmin, that could happen as well. That game did do pretty good on the Switch 1, all things considered. Golden Sun is always a long shot. We don't know what Camelot is working on. Probably more sports games or something like that. Punch-Out!, it's always just seems like, what are they going to do with the characters? Is it going to be offensive? Blah, blah, blah. But Punch-Out! Could always return in some type of way as well. But for me, I think Kid Icarus and Pikmin are probably the two likely candidates for the classic or smaller franchises coming back. Maybe even an F-Zero GX remaster or something like that, or some type of F-Zero game coming back in some type of way. They do have F-Zero on the NSO. You can play a lot of the F-Zero games on there. So maybe they just kind of go with the remaster or remake of something. But F-Zero 99 is available, so I'm not sure exactly what Nintendo wants to do with F-Zero. But some of the smaller franchises also have a shot at coming back. So those are my predictions and my analysis for what we could see at this upcoming Nintendo Direct, which I will be live reacting to. Make sure you guys tap in, subscribe, hit the like button if you're someone new, because it's going to be a wild and crazy show, at least in my opinion. So what do you guys think about all this? What are your predictions for the show? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, peeps, that wraps it up for this one here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you for the next one. Peace.